How many young talents do England actually have? Seriously, how many? I want an answer now. Last night, 17 years old Brian Madjo started the European Super Cup final against PSG, scored against the European champions and became the youngest goal scorer in the history of this competition. 17 years old. And this was his first official appearance for Aston Villa's first team. Meanwhile, in Italy at 17, we sometimes act as if a player still needs another 5 years before he's even allowed near the first team. We basically think they still need to be in nursery. And for me, that tells you everything about one of the biggest differences between English and Italian football. By the way, watching the pre-season friendly between Manchester City and Inter, there was another player in the second half who drove us crazy, or more specifically, drove Inter's defense crazy. And I'm talking about Mekaidu, no? In this case, we're talking about a 18 years old who already has the personality to constantly take his man on and more often than not, beat him. And when I see qualities like that, I'm genuinely fascinated. Absolutely fascinated. But we are here mainly to talk about the European Super Cup final, won 2-1 by PSG, who once again confirmed that, at least in terms of results, they are probably the strongest team in Europe right now. But I also have to say that Aston Villa produced a genuinely moving performance in so many ways, especially when you consider the important players they've sold and the players they were missing, no? And yet I still saw a really solid, well-built team with clear ideas. And I have to say it, Unai Emery is a special manager, special. But first of all, as always, I'm Nesquio and this is Beyond the Calcio. And if you want, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to follow all the upcoming content. By the way, as you can see from the graph, only 7% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. And that's honestly a ridiculously low number. So, if you can, please subscribe to the channel because it's completely free and it can make a huge difference from me, especially at this early stage of the channel. In any case, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I read all your comments and every single time I'm blown away by how kind you are to me. So thank you again. And now back to the football. I don't know who's gonna win the Ballon d'Or. I don't even know who deserves it more than anyone else. But what I do know is that Kvaratskhelia has now become a Ballon d'Or level player. A player who can generally win it. A player who belongs in that conversation because his development has been incredible. I remember him at Napoli, where he'd already shown just how good he was, a player with enormous quality, but above all, enormous character. And I think that character has helped him become the player we're watching today. Because now he's generally complete. No? He simply makes the difference. In tight spaces, he can always beat his man. He scores important goals. He decides matches. There is not much else to say. And I have to say I'm not exactly surprised, but I'm fascinated by just how decisive he's become, even for a team whose biggest strength is probably the collective. Because when we think about PSG, of course, we think about the incredible talent they have up from. Maybe we think about their midfield as well, but perhaps the first person who comes to mind isn't even a player. It's their manager, Luis Enrique. And that tells you everything about the work is done. The work is still doing, and in my opinion, the work he'll continue to do. But I was saying, despite PSG winning and once again proving what an outstanding team they are, I I actually preferred Aston Villa's performance yesterday. Villa created plenty of chances. They stayed in the game throughout. They looked always alive in every moment of the match. And in my opinion, they probably deserved a little bit more from the result. And even in this case, I have to give credit to the manager, and the work is done. Emery has taken Aston Villa and turned them into a genuine top-level club. And he's done that regardless of the players available to him. Because yesterday, as I said before, they were missing a lot of players. Watkins, Konsa, Onana through injury, and the list goes on. And then you have to consider the important players they've lost in transfer market as well. And yet, whoever stepped onto that pitch played with enormous courage. Speaking of courage, what did Madjo do last night? What a performance. Of course, he made mistakes as well. For PSG's first goal, if he fails to make a proper contact with the ball, loses possession, and Kvaratskhelia, then there's another moment when he gets his header completely wrong and misses what basically was a huge chance. But let me remind you once again, this kid is 17. 17! And this was his first official appearance for Aston Villa's senior team. And yet, he caused a defender like Pacho all sorts of problems. Look at the goal. The way he gets in front of him, the timing of the movement, that's a proper striker's goal. And he became the youngest goal scorer in Super Cup history in the process. No? So we've already seen that this kid has enormous potential. No? He's physically powerful. He can bring his team up the pitch. He can work with the ball. He already moves like a proper centre forward. And someone who never disappoints me though is the captain, McKean. My God, what a player. Quality and quantity. So many of Villa's dangerous moments came down his side. No? And this is exactly what I mean when I talk about players with character. No? McGinn. Those are the players who don't disappear in games like this. Quite the opposite. They always give you everything. And I'll say it again. Aston Villa deserved more. If they look at the second goal they conceded, it really comes down to an individual mistake from Kesh, who plays Doué onside. But even after conceding, Villa immediately had an opportunity to equalize through Hemmings, if I'm not mistaken. No, seriously. What a collective performance. And we have to remember who they were playing against. No? The reigning European champions with PSG, starting 9 of the players who started the Champions League final. So it was absolutely not a given that we would see such a competitive game. And I have to say, maybe this final even gave us more entertainment than the Champions League final. Of course, it's August, some players are still carrying the effects of pre-season training, others have only recently returned after the World Cup and are probably still trying to find their rhythm, and maybe all of that actually helped make the game more entertaining. But still, what a match, what a game, and what a performance from Aston Villa. Not bad at all, not bad at all. Okay, as I always say, the ball is in your court now, so do you think Kvaratskhelia can win the next Ballon d'Or? And how impressed were you by Brian Madjo? No? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming content. Now, thank you so much for watching, and a big hug from Nescio.